Hello, friends. This is Pastor Christopher Morendi of the Lutheran Institute of Regenerative Agriculture, and we have big news to bring you today, but we're going to work to it. We're going to get to that big news, and we'll be promoting it and talking about it here over the next couple of days. I have two interviews that will be coming out. In fact, I'm recording them both today, even though they'll be going out on different days. Today, I'm very excited to have the new, I guess maybe not brand new, we've been doing it for a little while here, academic dean of Luther Classical College in Casper, Wyoming. And we've been talking, and this Dr. Ryan MacPherson, who is serving in that capacity. We've been talking since we got this whole thing started, the Lutheran Institute of Regenerative Agriculture, about the connection between what we're doing and Luther Classical College. And perhaps many of you who have been following our work are very familiar with Luther Classical College, but there may be quite a few of you who come to us from other angles and really don't know much of all of what's going on out in Casper. So I wanted to have Dr. MacPherson on today as the academic dean of Luther Classical College to talk a little bit about what's going on in Wyoming and what we're trying to get established up there. I say we because not only is LIRA a partner of Luther Classical College, but I happen to serve on the Board of Regents of Luther Classical College. So the things that we're doing out in Casper. So I wanted him to give everyone a picture of that. And also we're going to talk about how we're connecting between Luther Classical College and the Lutheran Institute of Regenerative Agriculture. And that's going to lead to our big announcement at the end that we'll talk a lot more about when we get to that point. And I'll have another interview coming out. I'll leave that till the end to talk about that. I'll have another interview coming out next week. I'll kind of tie all this together again and promote what we're doing here. So Dr. MacPherson, that's a long introduction. Dr. MacPherson, very glad to have you with us today.
Well, and I'm grateful to be here too, and I'm thankful for all of your work with LIRA and with Luther Classical College.
Well, Dr. MacPherson, give us just a rundown on what is Luther Classical College? What's going on out there in Wyoming? What have we built out there thus far? We haven't actually built any we haven't put any brick and mortar together yet, but what have we put together out there? What are we dreaming to establish here just in another 18 months to begin out there in Wyoming? Give us a quick rundown of what Luther Classical College is all about.
Absolutely. So Luther Classical College is a new college. It's going to open in about 84 weeks or so. I think the timing or so when you put this up on YouTube should be about right. August of 2025 is the time to mark on your calendar. Luther Classical College is a college being built by Lutherans for Lutherans. And we will offer both an AA degree and a BA degree, so both 2-year programs and 4-year programs. Everyone's going to have basically the same major. 80% of your courses will be the same. It will be courses in Lutheran theology, reading the Bible and the Lutheran confessions. It'll be courses across the liberal arts spectrum, basically a classical great books curriculum, starting with the ancients, working our way up to modern times, covering history, philosophy, literature, science, arts, music, whatever else I forgot, it's in there too, giving just a broad foundation of the best of Western culture to cultivate an understanding of Western civilization, but especially to see the rise of the New Testament church there in the time of the Roman Empire, and then tracing through the Middle Ages to the Reformation, the great gifts of the Reformation, including theology and hymnody and all of that, and the arts, and then really coming up to modern and postmodern times. How can we as Christians navigate the world that we're in right now in the early 21st century, and what can we learn from the great thinkers of the past, both outside the church, who by God's great blessing of natural law, natural revelation, at least had some insight into wisdom for life this side of heaven, but especially to see it through the lens of Holy Scripture and to learn from our Lutheran fathers by studying the confessions of the 16th century and critiquing our culture really through that perspective of a Lutheran worldview.
So exciting things
I could
happening.
talk about, we've got, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, building a college is something that not many people have a chance to do that from the ground up. Most of our schools have been there a while, in both secular and religious, been there a while. So we're building this thing from the ground up, and we intend it to be, as you said, by Lutherans for Lutherans, to provide a classical education in the heritage of the West. What kind of exciting things are happening? I mean, this isn't just a pipe dream anymore. We have people that we actually pay to work at this place, and that we're putting all this together. It's not just a dream anymore. Where are we at with actually making this happen?
Sure. Yeah. So as far as tangibles, later this month, the academic catalog will be published. It's nearly done. It's in the final proofreading stages. It's about 100 pages long. It lists a description of every course we're going to teach. There's a huge section on our philosophy of education. And there's also, Lutherans, the Lutheran Institute for Regenerative Agriculture is mentioned in there too, as we'll be talking about shortly, because there's a connection between the college and that program out there in Iowa too. And then as far as personnel, I began August 1st of this year, 2023. Recently, we announced that the Reverend Dr. Harold Ristow has accepted a call to serve as our first president. I actually have a meeting with him tomorrow morning, and I'll continue to meet with him roughly weekly until he begins on-site full-time in April. Recently, we also have added to our staff Erica Kleinschmidt, who serves as an admissions coordinator, as well as William Gottwald, who serves both as a librarian and as a registrar. And so what we're preparing to announce in the coming weeks would be the procedures for applying to be accepted to Luther Classical College. And then in the months of kind of March, April or so, is when those applications will be received and reviewed. And our aim is that by May 1st of 2024, in just a few months here from today, that our first group of students will be able to be accepted and reserve their seat. Now, we don't open for a whole nother year, so there's going to be what we call a gap year in there. For some of our students who already finished high school or are about to finish high school here in May of 2024, those students would have a year before the college opens. And many of those students have come to us and said, we're so excited about Luther Classical College that we'd actually like to take a year off, if that's what it takes, to wait for the college to open. Now, we'll be doing another wave of admissions next fall and next spring of 2025. You know, those who are graduating from high school just in time, they will have the chance to apply and also join us. But it's especially for that first group of students who kind of are sitting around thinking, well, I wish this college were around already. And so our answer is, if you're willing to wait a year, we'll take you. We'd be happy to do that. And let me just give an idea of what students can do at the college first, and then we can come back to your program and see how the two fit together. So as I mentioned before, there's both an AA degree, a 2-year program, and a BA degree, a 4-year program. Everyone has the same major, classical liberal arts, basically. And within that, though, there are different areas of focus, what we call tracks. And so those who are interested in going to the seminary, in addition to the core curriculum, which is about 80% of all courses, they would take Greek and Hebrew in preparation to go to the seminary to become a pastor. Or those who want to become a classical Lutheran teacher. We have a couple of classes on teaching methods. We have some field experience opportunities where you can get in the classroom and develop that track record. We have aligned our curriculum to the Consortium for Classical Lutheran Education. They have some marks of excellence, some standards for judging what it means to be a good Lutheran classical teacher, basically. And so we're actually using those as our benchmarks in our program as well. And then a parish music track is another option. So again, you take most of your courses in common with everyone. Everyone's going to chapel together every day. You know, there's this community sense where we're all on the same page. But then if you want to be a parish musician, anyone can sing in the choir, of course, but then you take some additional classes. Everyone's going to take a music history class, but a parish music person would do some extra music theory, music skills. And then everyone has a senior capstone project too. And that might mean composing music if you're in the music track, or it might mean working with Greek and Hebrew and writing some kind of, research paper on some issue in the scriptures, maybe some controversy in church history that came up if you're in the pre-sum track. We also have a general track because maybe you're none of the above. And then at the AA level, we have both a general track that's just open, that liberal arts breadth of I want to study anything and everything and bring it all together. And so that's an option. But finally, at the AA level, there's also another track, which we call our trade school partnership track. And we're working here in Casper with Casper College. that has programs for getting certified in welding and plumbing and electrical work and things like that. So you would take most of your courses here at Luther Classical, but then you go start to develop a trade over there. And it's just, when I say over there, it's a 5-minute drive. It's really close. In fact, my house, it's 3 blocks from my house, and I live 6 minutes from campus, if that helps, you know. So really close, and we've got a nice relationship with them. In fact, I'll be over there tomorrow afternoon, meeting with some of them again. But there's also another trade college, and that's Tarkio Technology Institute, which is in your neck of the woods, Pastor Murundi. And same kind of deal where they have electrical, plumbing, HVAC, welding, that sort of thing. And when I spoke with their president a few weeks ago, he was just overjoyed about this possibility. You might think of it this way, that, you know, we're going to have students study Latin to come to Luther Classical College, but then we're talking about people being plumbers, right? It sounds like there's a disconnect, you know, and maybe we're used to like blue collar or white collar, like you have to choose one or the other, and those two people can't talk to each other, or something silly like that. We're all in the same body of Christ. You know, I see the college as a place not just for training future pastors and teachers, but laymen who will have home devotions with their family, who will serve on church council, who will be running their own plumbing business. And see, that's where the connection is, that we all should be studying the scriptures. It's good for all of us to read Shakespeare together. And studying Latin is a great thing. But if you want to do welding or electrical work or be a diesel mechanic, there's a place here for you too, because we're really all part of the body of Christ, and we all love to learn together, and we learn to serve in different ways. And so that's, I think it's a unique thing, because often there's sort of this elitism. I'm going to go off and do a classical degree there versus I'm just going to a trade school, as if that's not, you know, not important enough, or there's no connection. But we see a connection, and talking with the leadership at both of these partner schools, they're really excited about that because they see a connection. In fact, one of the guys said to me, he said, you know how you always have your general education requirements, everyone has to take like a literature class, a science class. He says, I think everyone should take a class in electrical work so that they can at least replace the light switch in their house. You know, in other words, don't just be in the ivory tower and you know, not know how to do practical things. And I think that really captures the spirit, that we're practical and bookish all at the same time, and we don't need to see those two things as being at odds, you know.
So you can see, friends, if you've been hearing me talk over the last year, and perhaps some of you are getting this, watching this video from Luther Classical College social media, so you're maybe haven't heard much about what we're doing. What we're trying to do here in Southwest Iowa, it just corresponds so nicely with that overall philosophy, and that's really where a lot of the genesis of the Lutheran Institute of Regenerative Agriculture came from, was from my work with Luther Classical College and this trade option, these trade partnerships. Now, at that time, when we put the Lutheran Institute of Regenerative Agriculture together, we had no idea that there was a technical school 30 miles down the road in Tarkio, Missouri. I'm actually going to drive down there right as soon as we're done with this interview. I'm going to have lunch with the president, and we're going to record an interview with him that we'll probably put up next week. So we have that partnership now that we didn't ever expect to have at the Lutheran Institute of Regenerative Agriculture. So what we're trying to do here is meant to supplement, to enhance the education that young people receive elsewhere, especially Luther Classical College, maybe some other places too, but especially we see quite a strong tie with what we're trying to do here at LIRA with what's going on at Luther Classical College. That we're intending to provide even more classical education, even more theology, and all that formation, but marry it to agriculture, small scale agriculture, learning how to raise your own food, perhaps becoming a local food entrepreneur, that sort of thing. And then the amazing thing to me is that Tarkio Tech just popped up, really, and they've only been open a few years. We'll hear that story from Dr. Davis, from President Davis next week. But the Tarkio Tech then gives the opportunity for students to come here to LIRA and learn the ag side, live here, be a part of this community here, and then drive 30 minutes down the road and get their professional certificate in a whole bunch of different programs. And we'll talk a lot more about that with President Davis next week. But you can see, friends, how LCC and LIRA connect together and work together, and how our goals are constant, and how we're going to be supporting one another. And the big way we're going to get ready to do this, and this is the big announcement for today, is we have been working pretty hard at putting together what I call the gap year program. And so Dr. MacPherson mentioned, I want him to give us the numbers here in a little bit, because if you get a lot of LCC material, you can see the numbers of kids who have already expressed interest in the college, which is amazing. A number of those students, as he said, want to graduate here in 2024 and take a year off and be ready in 2025 to start at LCC. And so a lot of our wonder, okay, what do I do? Do I get a job? Do I do this? Do I do that? We want to offer to them the opportunity to come out to the farm, come out to Southwest Iowa, live here on the farm from September through May, and be a part of this community, be a part of what we're building here. We're not all systems are not go yet, but we're putting this together, be a part of that. And then also possibly, if they have that kind of interest, they could drive down through the week down to Tarkio and get a professional certificate in some trade, and actually have a trade certificate already before they even start at Luther Classical College, which would be pretty cool. And then they could do the 2-year AA, or they could do a 4-year bachelor's at LCC, whatever they would like. So we want to offer that here on the front end. I think in the future we'll be glad to offer that on the back end, where a student can go to a couple years in Casper and then come here and do a trade certificate through Tarkio Tech. Or just the farm experience. I mean, the Tarkio Tech thing it's not like everyone has to go to Tarkio Tech. That's just a wonderful opportunity. But here, for the gap year students, we want to put that on the front end and invite you to come out, spend the year with us. Hopefully it won't be as cold as it is this week for most of the winter, but be a part of what's going on here and experience the life of a farm, and learning how to grow your own food, process your own food, and all that goes along with it, and the community. And then perhaps, if you so choose, go down to Tarkio and even get a professional certificate. Pretty cool deal. We'll be putting out a lot more information about this in the days to come. We really want to start promoting this. I want to have a good idea of who's interested here in the next month or so, month to 6 weeks, so that we can make proper preparations on our end for housing and whatnot for students. And I also want our supporters, our LIRA supporters, to know where they need to step in and help us make this gap year proposal a reality. Dr. MacPherson, what kind of numbers are we talking about? I mean, obviously a gap year, to say we want gap year students of LCC is a fairly circumscribed group. But what numbers are we talking about? I think it's pretty cool to hear the numbers of applicants and gap years and all that. So give us those numbers, throw those statistics out at us.
Sure. So we have roughly 40 students who have completed what we call our pre-application form. And so they give us their contact information. They let us know if they're thinking of saying the parish music track or the pre-seminary track or whatever might be their interest. And we have about 40 of them who either graduated this past May or will graduate this coming spring, and therefore have that gap year, this coming 2024-2025 academic year would be their gap year. So about 40 such students, and a number of them have recently been engaging us also. We've done some online video conferences where we've had some guest presenters. We just did one yesterday. Pastor Roger Mullet presented on Old Testament types of Christ. In fact, Pastor Morendi is going to present to that same group coming up as well. And so we've had, I want to say, 24 different students participate in that so far, some of which who are in the gap year, if you will, and others are current, let's see, juniors who then would be seniors next year. But looking long term with this relationship between LIRA and Luther Classical College, what I'm really excited about, a couple of things. One, I think there's something about God's gift of plants and the way that we can feed ourselves from plants. This idea of agriculture, or on the smaller scale, horticulture, and living off the land and knowing where your food comes from, and so just that's an education in and of itself, just to work on a farm. And I have done some volunteer work on a farm before, and kind of got my hands dirty. And it's a time to just pause and reflect. What did God make, and how's the best way to put all this to use? And so there's something right there that already is of value. But I think the thing that really makes the difference is we have a Lutheran pastor, right? Pastor Murundi there, and establishing a kind of Lutheran community where you could have morning and evening devotions and the connection to the liberal arts. Will people get together and read Shakespeare in the evening? Will people tutor each other in Latin? I think the sky's the limit. And a lot of that depends on who are the people who decide to come and participate. I mentioned before that we track. So I envisioned that some of our students would go spend their summer there, some sort of internship or whatever we decide to call this in the end, but they might get some teaching experience while also learning to farm, learn to farm by day, do some teaching experience in the evenings, or however you structure their calendar. But what a resume builder, what a life experience that then later they can translate into wherever God places them. And when I say wherever God places them, let me emphasize too that we're not focused on career prep. So I don't think that the idea here is go to LIRA and then become a farmer, any more than I want to say come to Luther Classical College and you have to be a pastor, teacher, or parish musician, although those are kind of our three tracks that we've highlighted. But we especially want to train Lutherans to become husbands and wives and fathers and mothers and raise godly families and make intelligent choices when it comes to finding food that's nutritious for your family. And so I see this partnership as just being part of, not dictating an answer, but just shaping a philosophy, right? A worldview in which they can then go find their own answers and do a better job than our generation did in making sure that we have healthy and nourishing food for our bodies. And then likewise, everyone's a teacher, right? I'm thinking of the future of homeschool parents and all of that too. And, what better way to do that than this combination between LIRA and Luther Classical College?
It's our goal here. Thank you for all those kind words, and I think the partnership that we're going to see between these two burgeoning institutions, and then again Tarkio Tech, another burgeoning institution in our region here. I'm really excited to see that the fruit that the Lord's going to produce through this, and I think when we're connected to the land, that's such a valuable thing, such an important thing. And I hope that many LCC students will have the opportunity to be a part of what's going on out here and learn those other skills. And again, one thing I love about what we're trying to do in Wyoming and here in Southwest Iowa is yes, we want people to have successful careers, certainly, but we're focused on much more than that. And we want people, especially those who are raising your food. We want them to be moral people. We want your electrician and your plumber and your much less, and especially your pastor to be moral, upright, well-formed, classically trained people. To have this melding of practical and intellectual knowledge. So you can see it going both ways. You can see the quote unquote blue collar, if we want to use that term, having the classical formation, but you can also see it the other way. You can see the quote unquote intellectual, pre-seminary student getting his hands dirty. So you see the benefit going in both directions. And I'm excited to see that combination take place and take root out here. And as Dr. MacPherson said, it's all going to depend on the students that we have. And that's the nice thing. I'm excited about the flexibility that we're going to be able to have depending on what students we have out here. And just so you know, friends, we're going to, in the gap year program, I'm going to be taking them through Dante, the Divine Comedy. I'm going to take them through Milton's Paradise Lost, and then Shakespeare's Three Great Tragedies. We'll do Hamlet, we'll do Lear, and Othello. So we'll do that through the year, as well as looking at some regenerative agriculture books and whatever else we can get our hands and our minds on in that year. So much more to come, much more information to come on this gap year proposal. And that's only one piece. It's the initial piece, but it's only one piece of this partnership with Luther Classical College that I pray is going to bear much fruit. And I pray Luther Classical College continues to bear much fruit. We have exciting things happening. Those 40 gap year students are a slice of what, close to 170 others, total students who have expressed interest in Luther Classical College, and it's just exciting to see students coming in, to see folks, donors, those who've been blessed with material means, give for that work too. So exciting things are happening, friends. You can look around at the world and you can say, oh, things are not looking good, and you can just throw your hands up, or you can build something. And out in Wyoming, we are building something. Out in Southwest Iowa, we are building something. Friends, it was quite a joy. It was a wonderful joy to have Dr. Ryan MacPherson, the Academic Dean of Luther Classical College, with us today. Thank you so much, Dr. MacPherson.
Thank you, Pastor Murundi. May God bless your work.
Thank you so much. Friends, God's blessings. Be looking on our social media and on our blog for more information about this gap year proposal. Forward it on to anyone you think might be interested in taking a look at it. And we'll have a second interview coming up. I'll be dropping it next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that, with President Davis of Tarkio Tech. So you'll get to find out a lot more about him and that fun project that's going on just down the road over the border in Missouri. Lord be with you, friends. Have a wonderful day. God's blessings.